20%. So we've got folks from all over. That's great. Okay. All right. So I will go ahead and start with introductions. Again, welcome everybody. We will be monitoring the chat. Our speaker will talk about when questions can be asked and how we'll be answering those. So again, welcome to this webinar on special needs planning. And I'm with, this is being presented by the Family Focus Resource Center. My name is Kathleen Secchi. I'm the coordinator in our Santa Clarita Valley. We also have offices in the San Fernando Valley and the Antelope Valley. That's our service area. So before we start, I just want to quickly provide some information about how this will work. All attendees are currently muted, and we ask you to stay muted to keep background noise to a minimum. And you'll be able to see the presentation on your screen as you're seeing now. We will have time for questions and answers, and again, David will specify when that will be. You can either type those questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hand if you haven't done it before, which probably most of you have. If you go into the participants section, then you can see where to click on raising your hand. And we will try our best to get to everybody's questions. There is a lot of information to share, a lot of great information. If we don't get to your question, you can definitely follow up with David Terk about this specific topic, or if you have other questions for us, you can follow up with us. And as far as those questions go, they will be general questions that will be answered. So anything more personal or specific can be done in follow-up. So with that, I will hand this over to David.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Well, I think we all know why we're here, so let's get into it. We're special needs planning, all the things you didn't know you needed to know. So you're all here because, well, 75% of you at least have a child living with special needs. Planning for the future, we all know, is a difficult subject that no one ever really wants to talk about. We're talking about when we're not going to be here and our kids are still there. But it's so important. The reality is our loved ones chances are going to outlive us. And it's incumbent on us to make sure that we've done everything in our power to make sure that they have the best quality of life possible. So, who should plan? This often comes up. Everyone. The answer is everyone, regardless of the age of the person with the disability, whether they are 4 or 40. It is crucial that the proper planning is done to assure smooth transition, security, and quality of life for your child. Who will know what to do for your loved one if tomorrow morning you're not here? These are the tough questions. They're important. There's tons of hope here. Have you done everything you can to be assured of your loved one's future care, security, and quality of life? These are all the questions that we have to ask ourselves. There are very few things in life that we can actually control. This is one of them. This is one of the blessings that you can actually control. It is a magnificent benefit for your entire family, not just your loved ones, but the people taking care of them as well. So the objectives today in this workshop will be to help you to understand the current and future planning issues and concerns that every family must address, is to provide you with the information, resources, and tools to be able to prepare a plan and take action, and to assist you in overcoming any of those obstacles and make the process simple, affordable, and timely. Many, many families wait. Next year will be better. Next week will be better. The year after will be in a better position. Wait, a lot of times it's just simply, we build up the anxiety in our heads before we have the information. And it's really the unknown that prevents us from moving forward and taking action. And so I want to share with every one of you that there is hope. There is almost always, I cannot think of an exception that I've met with where the situation that you have in your head is much better than you thought it might be. And so I want to share that with you. There is typically an awful lot more available in terms of resources than you might have thought. So that touches on why families don't have a plan. Well, one, it's an emotional and confusing process. There are a lot of things to think about. They're hoping their loved one will be cured and not have a need for this discussion. They might think their child's too young. We already discussed. Any age is the appropriate age to prepare. Funds. I don't have money. I don't have enough money to justify a trust. What is this going to do for me? We don't have a step-by-step method to even approach all of the issues that are involved. It's just too confusing, which goes back to number one. It is difficult to find people who are qualified. Not everyone does this. This is a very, very small specialty. It's a real niche. You need to have someone that specializes in special needs planning and understands how your plan affects all elements that are going to touch your loved one's life. In particular, how that relates to government benefits and their living situation. By the way, I am going to go through, I'm not going to read, this isn't a script. I'm going to go through some of these slides. There's a ton of information in here. I'm not going to dig into every single slide in depth. Some will be more than others. I just want to let you know. All right, waiting to see if we'll even need a trust. Might not have enough money to justify one, or we're going to live longer than our child. We know that historically, outliving our children was not an issue. For instance, someone living with Down syndrome 50 years ago had a life expectancy of 30 to 40 years. Now we're 60, 70, or even 80 years. And now this becomes much more of a conversation. So the good news is, if you have not yet made plans for your loved one, don't worry. The state of California and the federal government have a plan for you. The not so good news, you see where I'm going with this? It's the same. Do you want the state and federal government to make a plan for you? Again, this is one of the very few things in life that we actually can control and not leave it up to, well, your state, local, or federal government to make a plan. The not so good news entails the state will determine who the guardian or trustee and conservators are. You would not have a say in how your estate is distributed. And any assets over $2,000, and this is a huge, huge issue of why planning is so crucial, any assets over $2,000 would make your loved one ineligible for SSI and Medi-Cal benefits. So that's why we're here today. Also, if your child has received any Medi-Cal benefits, if they receive funds in their name improperly, Medi-Cal would have an opportunity to come back and ask for repayment for past services rendered. So there are so many important reasons to plan properly and to protect your loved one. And the goal of this is to be able to maximize and maintain benefits for your loved one and protect any supplemental assets from any lawsuits or creditors. I won't dwell on the not so good news. I think we all get the point. We want to plan to avoid all of these potential issues. Okay? Oh, this really goes into it. I apologize. Not all assets pass through a will. So you know. You may have a house. That's fantastic. But if you have life insurance policy or an IRA or a 401k, those are not controlled by a will or a trust. They're controlled by its own beneficiary designation form, which if you have a properly executed special needs trust, you can make that the beneficiary. So let's say one that had a life insurance payout, rather than going directly to your child, and let's say use a number of $100,000, you you could send that directly to their special needs trust and protect it for them. And Medi-Cal would have no opportunity to get to it, and you are able to maximize what is available to your family. Okay, so planning involves everyone. It's not just mom and dad, it's siblings, it's aunts, it's uncles, etc. Many well-meaning family members understand that there might be, let's say, a grandchild or a niece or nephew living with special needs, and they want to make sure that they're taken care of, and they leave money to them in their will, which is so wonderful and thoughtful. However, if your child is able to receive government benefits, that gift, that super thoughtful gift, is going to make them ineligible. And so proper planning includes a conversation with anyone involved in your child's life to make sure that if they do want to leave any assets to your loved one, that it is properly done and goes to a special needs trust that is protected and created for that purpose. All right. So the needs of one living with special needs, and the goal, I'll reiterate, of planning is lifetime supervision and care. We need to make sure that we have the lifestyle, we have the care, we have the protection that's needed. The ability to maintain government benefits, and we will get into what government benefits will be available, and how to manage those. So we will get into that. We want to make sure that we're providing for the person's supplemental needs. Again, that's beyond what the government benefits are going to provide. Everyone knows government benefits are not enough to live on, but they are certainly a good start. Other items that we want to consider: management of assets, final arrangements, etc. Planning issues. There are 4 areas that we focus on. And if you think of your child as the center of a wheel with 4 spokes touching it, all of them have to touch, or you're missing something. It's not stable. And the 4 issues are this: it's lifestyle planning, it's legal planning, it's government benefit coordination, and it's financial and budget planning. Okay, we need to identify the lifestyle we want to have. We need to codify that, put that in writing in a legal format that allows our wishes to become fulfilled. We need to identify what government benefits will be available, and that they differ. If you're not aware, they will change throughout life. So when one becomes 18, there's one benefit that one will be eligible for. When a parent retires, that will be another benefit, and we'll get into that. Comprehensive life planning includes a letter of intent. This is your lifestyle plan. This is the part that is everything about who your child is. What makes a good day versus a bad day? Is it scrambled eggs or fried eggs? Is it buttons or zippers? Where are they going to live? What education do we want them to have? How do they communicate? Are they verbal? Are they nonverbal? Everyone expresses themselves in different ways, and that needs to be communicated with current and future caregivers. This is so beneficial to families just to have a letter of intent for themselves, because you can utilize it as a primer for who your child is. So if they're going to school, have a therapy appointment, camp, whatever the case may be, you can share this letter of intent, this lifestyle plan with whomever's interacting with your child, to get the more they know, the better the outcomes are going to be, the better the communication's going to be, the less friction. That's all we're looking for, is to have the smoothest, best quality of life that we can have. And so the letter of intent is often overlooked, but is as important or more important than the legal documents themselves. Okay, I just wanted to stress that. Also, part of comprehensive life planning, you need all of the proper legal documents that all work together. They don't exist in a silo, they all speak to each other. You have probably heard of a will before. That's your last will and testament. There's a living trust, a family trust, you might know it by, and a special needs trust. And when properly drafted, all three of those documents all work together for the benefit of your loved one. It will address guardians or conservators and trustees, current and future trustees in any trust. It identifies government agencies involved, the government benefits, how do we fund the trust, what do we do with it, how do we actually use this tool, what financial institutions are involved, final arrangements, etc. Everything in life that you want to kind of get down on paper so that everything works easily. So now we're going to break it down into a 10-step plan. 2 of the steps take quite a while to get through. The rest of them are fairly straightforward. So why don't I stop here for some quick questions, and then we'll dig into this. How do I get there? Do we have any questions coming up here?
I don't see any yet, but you
All
can go
right.
ahead and put those in the
I
chat
have a
box.
question.
Oh, there
Yes.
you go.
Can I ask a question?
Mm.
So, David, sometimes parents tell us that they don't have enough assets to do a special needs trust. But are there still things that they should be careful about doing in their will, even if they don't have a trust?
So yes, there are. A lot of times families have it in their head that a trust sounds like something where you need millions of dollars to put into it, and that is not the case. It is really most effective for most of us in the middle, who have a need for government benefits, are not independently wealthy, and have a need to protect what is available. So I will circle around and answer the question about what to do with the will, but generally there's a lot more to protect than one anticipates. Particularly if you own a home, that's probably the biggest thing that would be passed, a family's biggest asset, and would need to be protected properly. If, however, none of that fit the bill, and I encourage everyone to ask the questions, please. I'm putting you on the spot now to say, hey, I'm asking questions, but as soon as I leave, they're all going to come in. It's okay, write them all down. I am available. There's no obligation to call me and ask questions. It is totally fine. It is what I hope to do, and make sure that you don't make a well-meaning mistake. So back to Victoria, your question about what to do in a will. Specifically, it would be to make sure that money did not pass directly to your child living with special needs. You would want to identify them as a person living with special needs, that no distribution should go to them, and that you will then direct any money going anywhere else to someone other than that child. And then you would have that person, theoretically, would be the person to take care of your child and would have the funds to do that with. The problem with doing that is you are trusting an awful lot and there's nothing legally binding about it. It is simply you are saying that you're leaving money to someone other than your child living with special needs, and it's up to that person to fulfill your wishes. If you trust that person and nothing comes up, then that can work, but it doesn't give you that assurance of protection where a special needs trust would give you that protection. Okay.
So we have another question, David,
Wonderful.
from Sonia. Do you have worksheets that a parent can fill out?
Yes, that's part of what we do with families is we go through a worksheet that lays out all the chaos that's in our brains and lays it down on paper. So when we work with families that we go through that together, it's not something that I hand out independently because it does require explanation.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So let's get into the first few steps, and I'm going to stop in the middle for some more questions, and on we go. Please stop me anywhere in the middle if something comes up. All right, step one.
I had a question that I don't guess you read my question.
Okay, who is that speaking?
Maduka, my name is Maduka.
Oh, hi there.
How are you? I texted, I wrote my question, but I don't guess you saw it in chat. I'm divorced from my wife with whom I have a child with Down syndrome.
Uh-huh.
We don't get along for right now. Right now, we've been divorced for 3 years, but we're not getting along at all. And we have joint custody, joint conservatorship.
I want to stop you there.
Okay.
Let's have this conversation in private.
Okay.
Please, no problem calling me. Let's make that happen. But I can see where this is going. It's going to be a little involved.
Okay. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Please
All right.
don't sit on it. Please make sure we get that answered, okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, step one, decide what you want. We start with the end in mind. We need to create this vision of what lifestyle do we want to have for our loved one. And then we go from there. Some considerations will be, where are we going to live? Are they going to work? If so, how much? Where? What does that look like? Education, activities, religion should be in here, medical care, here's religion, final arrangements. So many considerations. Again, that's the lifestyle planning part. So many families start with the idea that it's the legal documents first. Yes, they have to be properly done and in place, but it's all the thinking and the caring that you pour into the plan, that makes the difference between one that works and one that doesn't. The paper is the final product of the thinking and the caring. So I want you to keep that in mind. Step two, exactly what we're discussing. Prepare that letter of intent. And that is literally writing down what I want. And what does that look like? And it gives you an opportunity to take yourself out of the role of parent and put yourself in the shoes of that person who will be caring for your child in whatever setting that is. Many families, this is a good point about writing and video. It's often really difficult to express what a particular look is trying to convey. Video can help that a lot. And we all have phones. We take quick videos of our loved one, different activities of daily life. How do they behave swimming? How do they eat? How do they communicate when they're frustrated or happy? All of those things need to be communicated so that, well, that we can all communicate together and get to where we want to be, which is just smooth and easy. Step 3. Who do you trust to fulfill these roles? Your successor guardians, conservators, and trustees. By the way, a quick note on terminology here. In California, guardians are for individuals under age 18. Any parent is a guardian of their child under age 18. But when a child turns 18, they are technically an adult. And there's no asterisk in the US Constitution that says that they are not an adult if they are living with special needs. So if a parent wants to maintain parental rights for their adult child living with special needs, in California, a conservatorship is what would accomplish that. Okay, and we can have a discussion on that as well. Who are the people in your life? Are you lucky enough to have relatives or friends? If not, there are other entities that do manage special needs trusts, and they're called fiduciaries. They're professionals who are bound to uphold a higher sense of duty. There are charitable groups. There are special needs trusts called pooled trusts, and those are typically used for individuals who have little or no resources or have no one they trust to be able to manage a special needs trust for their loved one. So those are called pooled trusts, and they are charitable groups and also exist for those situations. All right. So this is where we try to get the plan and the dream into reality. What is that really likely to cost? What is going to be our day-to-day need in the future to make sure that we're fed and clothed and housed and all the basic things that we need, as well as the health care and whatever other elements are involved? Clearly, one living with special needs can have a number of different expenses than a typical person, and those all need to be accommodated for. This is something we do every day, and with experience, you come up with different approaches. So, for instance, I learned so much from families. We were doing a budget for a family, and they've got $25 a month for shampoo for their child, and I was like, is this correct? That's a lot of shampoo. I said, well, my son loves to just squirt the shampoo in the shower. That's what he loves to do. He loves the bubbles. He loves smearing it around. He loves the shampoo in the shower. That's a part of his day-to-day life that we want him to maintain. And that's why that's there. Those are some individual special things that you want to make sure are accommodated for. Effects of inflation, yes, if we're planning today, but our child is 15, chances are we need to project forward a number of decades. And we need to take the effects of inflation into account. What rate of return am I getting on the money that's there? Is it growing, or is it being eaten away by inflation? How much is needed for the plan? So that's one number. One number without context is a number. There's a whole equation that goes to that. So there's the amount that we need at the end of the rainbow, and then how do we get there? Well, one aspect is going to be government benefits is going to bridge a lot of that gap. And then the rest of it will come through personal resources, whether that is savings, life insurance, retirement, house, whatever other assets are available. All of that goes into the mix for the entire family, not just your child living with special needs, but your entire family. Okay. So again, this is How do we fund it? What areas of funding can we find? Well, government benefits, we mentioned, are not everything, but they certainly do. They get you a lot of the way there. And we're going to go into that in the next slide. These are all options for how to fund my child's future. Savings, inheritance, family assistance, whatever it is, okay? Let's get into a major source of funding, which are Social Security government entitlements, okay? I'm gonna go through a number of these and just define them, and then I'm gonna go back and explain what the programs are in a brief fashion. I could spend 3 hours just on this and still not. I do want to use this as a quick plug for the Regional Center. For next month in January, there's going to be a 2-part Social Security benefit webinar that you should attend. I will be attending just to refresh everything. I highly, highly recommend it, because as we go through this, you're going to see there is a lot available, and it's super duper important. So I want you all to be able to maximize what is available, because that means it's that much less coming out of pocket. Okay.
And David, let me just, it's Kathleen, let me just add to that a little bit. So that is, we have tentative dates for later in January, and that'll be family focused. That will be putting that on. And so we'll be able to get that information out to everybody once it's, solidified. So thank you for mentioning that.
You got it. I'm excited for it, because it updates every year too. So this will be a wonderful update for next year. I went too fast. Go back. Okay, let me briefly define these programs. Are you able to see my mouse on when I'm circling things? Yes. Okay, great.
Yes.
So SSI is typically the first benefit your loved one is going to see. We'll take it from when they become an adult and turn 18. Your loved one should become eligible for SSI benefits. In California, the current SSI maximum benefit is $963.10. And that can be reduced for any number of reasons. And we want to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to maximize, not minimize those benefits. One of the things that we do with families is a coaching session prior to a Social Security interview, which is what you will have when you apply for benefits. They will interview your child to see if they are eligible. Often there are questions they will ask to try to determine where they could limit the amount awarded. I hope you enjoy how carefully I'm choosing my words here. SSI is a temporary benefit. So the rules for this are, you have to be you're over 18, you have a disability that will last over 12 months, and that you have fewer than $2,000 of assets in your name. If you meet that criteria, you are eligible for SSI benefits, and anyone receiving $1 of SSI benefits automatically receives Medi-Cal. Okay, it's obviously Medicaid is the national program. Every state has its own. California's is Medi-Cal. So now when your child, when your child gets older and you, mom or dad, retires or becomes disabled, they will migrate from SSI benefit to survivor retirement benefit. Okay, that's this SSA here. I'm sure you noticed that that's not really an acronym because it doesn't stand for survivor retirement benefit, but that's the government at work for you. Make it complicated. So your child will migrate from SSI benefit to SSA. And what that means is that when you look at your Social Security statement, which are not being mailed to you any longer. You can get at ssa.gov, okay? ssa.gov, and you can download your own personal Social Security statement. You'll have a number on there that says your monthly payment will be, I'm going to use a number of $2,000 a month because it makes the math really easy. Your child, if you retired or are disabled, will receive $1,000 a month, 50% of your benefit. In addition to that, after 25 months, that's 2, 5, your child will also be eligible to have Medicare insurance as well as Medi-Cal. So now you're hopefully receiving more money. So you're receiving $1,000 rather than $963, and you're getting Medicare on top of Medi-Cal, which is priceless. Now, in that same benefit, so in that same example, we have a $2,000 benefit. A parent has retired. Child receives $1,000 a month in addition to, not taken away from your benefit. When you pass away, that benefit will go up 25% to 75% of the full retirement benefit. So what that means is that number now becomes $1,500 a month for the rest of their life. That is significant. That is truly significant and important to understand and to maintain the ability to receive that, because not everyone gets that. You have to be eligible. So super duper important. And this is one of the key areas that we focus on to make sure that you have things set in a way that does not make you ineligible for benefits. All right. SSDI, we're going to move on to this next one. That's available for anyone who has worked 10 years, paid 40 quarters of taxes, and has a disability justifying the benefit. Medicare and Medi-Cal are healthcare benefits. Medicare is primary. Medi-Cal would be supplementary, assuming you have both. Medi-Cal is it's supported by the state. It's equally funded by the state and the federal government. That has its own rules to it, so that if one runs into money, they have a great problem and they run into money, Medi-Cal can come back and ask for payment to be returned for past services rendered. So if they've taken advantage of the Medi-Cal system and happen to come into some money, Medi-Cal can ask for it back. So one of the things that we need to make sure is that things pass properly and that they're not considered to be owned by your child living with a disability. Okay, we'll get to the next one. So now, why are benefits so important? Right. Well, I've alluded to this. If you're getting $1,000, $1,500 a month for life, that adds up, and it adds up to over $1 million of cash income from 18 to 80, and that's before you count unlimited healthcare from Medicare and Medi-Cal. So it's incredibly important and helpful to a family to be able to avail themselves of these benefits. This is what they are here for. Sometimes I get families who feel bad that oh, well, we shouldn't apply for benefits. This is what they're there for. They're there for your child to take advantage of, and you have been paying for these for a long time. Protect these benefits. All right. Questions on what we've covered thus far? I feel like this is a decent place to stop here.
My name is Sonia Ramirez. I have a question. You said if they get SSI, like let's say when she turns 18, she can apply for SSI, correct? Because she doesn't get it now. then
Correct.
she
And it can be after 18 as well. It doesn't have to be like on the 18th birthday. It can be after as well.
okay, then you said they would automatically get Medi-Cal.
If they are accepted, yes. If they are receiving $1 of SSI, they're automatically enrolled in Medi-Cal.
But can she still keep private insurance if we have
Yes.
insurance for her?
Absolutely. And preferable. And great question. Super. Thank you. You should also know, yes, you want to keep your private insurance. Your child may stay on your private insurance until forever, as long as you have that insurance. They are not kicked off at age 26. A child living with a disability is defined differently than a typical child. So they are not kicked off the rolls at age 26. They are able to stay on your insurance for as long as you have it. And this can come in super beneficial for anyone who might have a pension where health benefits are included and there's an option to pass it to other family members. Once in a while, you get these lovely programs that allow that. And that is incredibly wonderful for the family, really powerful benefit.
Thank you for the great question. And I think we have maybe another 20 minutes or depending on how
Awesome. I
Yeah.
think we're good. I
we're
think
still
we'll be
doing
great.
okay.
Yeah, we're
thank
doing
you.
fine. So I'm going to preface this. There's going to be coming forward a few slides probably 10, that is an exhaustive list of common mistakes made in special needs planning. That's where we're going to save some time and not go through every single one. I'll hit some high points and we'll cruise on. And anyone that wants to know more, I'm always happy to chat with. All right, step 6. This should be with lightning bolts, bold, highlighted, qualified. Have a qualified professional advisor prepare your documents. I cannot tell you, or I can tell you, 65% of what I do is undoing what have been improperly done. There are different kinds of special needs trusts for different situations, and it's a tool. So you want to use the right tool for the right situation. Oftentimes, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But when you have other options, there can be a more elegant way to approach things. So step 6, have someone qualified do this. Go forward. Great. Asset distribution options. So there are 3 options you can choose and the ramifications to everything. So one can leave assets directly to the person living with special needs. My son Johnny receives everything when I pass away. Fantastic. However, that will make him ineligible for any government benefits. He'll have everything I have, but no government benefits. Okay. We talked about the second one before, where if you just have a will, what would you do? Well, you can leave assets to another family member for the person living with special needs and trust that they will fulfill your wishes. There's more than trust that goes into that. I mean, there's just the fact that that person actually owns those assets. And if something were to happen, like a lawsuit, they got in an accident, all of that money can be attached and taken and not there for the person living with special needs. So a lot of times families will try to be clever and avoid and do exactly this and try to leave everything to their sibling who is going to care for their sibling living with special needs. However, let's say that sibling gets married and then divorced. I know it doesn't happen often, but let's say it happens. All of that money would be split. It would not be protected for your child living with special needs and no longer there to provide. All because it wasn't we were trying to do things. We're trying to be a little clever, a little too clever. And then the other option after this is to leave it directly to a special needs trust. Again, I mentioned there are different special needs trusts for different situations, and we'll get into that.
So David, we have a quick question from
Yes.
Alba. If a family has a trust, can a child with a disability still get SSA?
Yeah, well, repeat the question again, I'm sorry.
If a family has a trust, can a child with, or the child with a disability still get SSA? I think you kind of touched on that.
Yes,
earlier.
they can. They can. So it depends on the type of trust that you have. If it's a special needs trust or a family trust, I hate to be vague, but the devil's in the details, and understanding what type of trust we're talking about is going to inform us a little more. Common planning mistakes. Let me hit a couple top ones here for you. In the first question, this actually goes to who should plan. The question you want to ask yourself is, are you or will you be financially or personally responsible for a person living with special needs? If so, you need to plan. Common mistakes would be trying to create your own. Not excluding, remember I touched on this before on the wills, a mistake would be not excluding the person from a will or a trust. Again, because that person, in order to maintain benefits, cannot receive money directly. We need a vehicle that will work for them but not be them, and that is a special needs trust. Disinheriting the person with special needs, saying in your documents that they're disinherited and cannot get anything, is also not the right thing to do. Not the least of which, it's not very nice. This is not a proper way to leave assets. And we touched on this before. Leaving assets to others for the person's benefit is really a risky proposition. You're really hoping that everything works perfectly, and no one in this room has had everything go perfectly. So we cannot expect that. We want to plan for the worst and always hope for the best. And typically, everything's somewhere in the middle. So again, I mentioned we have a lot of common mistakes. I sent you all a list of 10 of the 28. This is the full 28. We're not going to blow it all out, but needless to say, there are a lot of potential issues, all of which we address in a very sequential manner to make sure that everything is proper. So not coordinating with other advisors would be an issue. You need to coordinate. If you have a financial advisor or anyone else involved in your lives, they need to understand. Persons who aren't familiar with the different types of special needs trusts I mentioned before, that's a problem. It puts you at a disadvantage to use the wrong tool. I mentioned before the beneficiaries on life insurance, pension, and annuities. Those would need to be changed to represent an existing special needs trust that could receive those funds for your child. Alrighty. Now, I had this conversation just this morning. If you look at language like, oh, these funds are to support maintenance, food, and shelter for my child. That seems perfectly logical. However, the government views that as a duplication of benefits that they are paying for, and would reduce your benefit for having that language in your documents. Just stuff you would not expect. I mentioned here, this last one here, including special needs trusts inside of a revocable living trust or as a testamentary trust in a will, is often fraught with difficulty. It leaves a lot of things open to be for Medi-Cal and SSI to reject. You do want to consider, my child may want to get married in the future. That's a consideration we want to accommodate in anything that we do. Money, 529 plans. If you have one, good for you, fantastic. When your child turns age 22, the money in that 529 plan is considered to belong to them, and it's a countable asset. Now, this is a perfect place to discuss the CalABLE program. Now, one of the problems that families constantly have to address is, how do I keep assets under $2,000? So your child may be living at home, receiving about $1,000 a month from SSI and not needing to spend all of it. Maybe they're spending $500 and the rest of it can be saved. Well, you're going to hit $2,000 pretty quickly. What do we do? In the past, one would have had to spend it down. You may have heard that term, spend it down. That is Social Security's first remedy for everything when you have too much money, is go spend it. Typically, because that's the easiest thing for them to do, is if the number doesn't go over the threshold for them, they don't have to do anything, that's great. But if it does, then they have to do more work. And that is typically not what people want to do. So spend it down is the easiest way. However, it's not the only way, and it's definitely not the best way. So here comes 2014. The United States government finally addressed this issue and created a plan called ABLE. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience, and is specifically designed for persons living with special needs to have funds in this account up to $100,000 that does not impact their SSI benefit eligibility. Now one can have SSI benefits, not have to frivolously spend, save it in this type of account, and still maintain benefits. And this is a wonderful, wonderful tool in the overall special needs planning tool belt. Little more information on ABLE. If you are familiar with 529 plans, they work exactly the same way. Dollars are after-tax dollars. They are deposited and invested in California, it's one of 4 options, ranging from FDIC insured, conservative, moderate, and growth. When used for qualified disability expenses, those funds come out tax-free. You can put up to $15,000 per year in there. And again, you can put up to $100,000 in there before it affects SSI benefits. Questions on CalABLE, because I do a whole nother workshop just on CalABLE. I do want to touch on it briefly because it is a wonderful tool to be able to get money out of your child's name and into a protected account that is still designated for them.
I have a question. When are you planning on doing a CalABLE workshop? Do you have a date?
I don't have a firm one, but Kathleen and I were just discussing February as a tentative.
Thank you. And then clarification, a 529, is that the same as a Coverdale College account?
It's not. It is not. And a Coverdale would need to be addressed differently. And it can't be rolled over directly into the ABLE account.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. And please write these questions down. You can call me anytime or email. I'm happy to make sure you have this, okay? All right. Anything? All right, we're cool. One thing that people actually forget, and this comes in with, acrimonious divorces and maybe individuals in our family who are lovely individuals, but perhaps less responsible than others. You can not only name the people you want to be involved, but you can also name individuals who you do not want to be involved in managing the trust. So typically this would be with ex-spouses and other family members, since they would have some sort of standing to contest something, that you can specifically say in your documents, it is my wish that so-and-so never have anything to do with this trust. And you can protect yourself that way as well. So just some little pieces that help fill it all in. This first one, overlooking the effects of other family members' estate plans, that's where we're talking about properly passing money. And if you have a properly drafted special needs trust, other family members can leave it. If they want to leave money directly for your child, they can leave it directly to the special needs trust rather than going to you or directly to the child. So that's another way of making sure that everything's handled. And the way that we handle this is when we have families and we complete the process and have a tax ID number for the special needs trust, we provide the verbiage and the tax ID number for other family members to include in their estate plans. So it's my wish to leave, grandma wanted to leave money directly to Johnny. Now she's going to leave it to Johnny's special needs trust. Okay, things you want to look for. Whoopsie. There are institutions, if you are not lucky enough to have someone that you trust, a friend or relative, to manage things, there are institutions that will do this, or private trustees. There's certain questions you want to ask. Are they experienced at doing this? Not everyone is experienced at administering special needs trusts. So you can see the list of questions here. Do you manage special needs trusts? How many do you manage? No amount of assets, etc. Now, again, I don't want people to be scared that just because we're using words like assets, that there is some massive pot of gold that we're talking about. An asset is $1 or $10. It doesn't have to be something massive. And I really want families to understand you don't need to be rich to do this. This is most effectively utilized for middle income people. It really is most effective for that entire middle area and upper middle. Okay. My goodness, these do go on a lot. We're going to cruise through here. All right, step 7. I have alluded to there are a number of different types of special needs trusts for different situations. There are standalone living trusts. There are testamentary trusts, which means that they don't go into effect until after one passes. And there's a living family trust with a special needs trust. There are benefits. Again, it's the right tool for the right situation. I'm going to focus on just 2 of these right now in the name of time, but there are other things to consider. The 2 most crucial elements, this testamentary trust is probably the most frequent trust that we see that is not helpful to the individual. The issue with the testamentary trust is this. 1, it's typically embedded inside of a standalone living trust and then has this testamentary trust written in it, which says it doesn't go into effect until after I'm dead. Okay, that makes sense. However, if it doesn't exist, it can't be reviewed. And one of the beautiful things here is, did you know that you can actually, when you are done with this process, bring it to Social Security, who's the only opinion in the world that matters, you can actually bring your documents to Social Security and have them review it while you're alive rather than after the fact. Clearly, that's an enormous element of importance and security to you if you know that the only entity that matters for my child to receive government benefits, I now have their blessing while I'm alive. That is the gold seal of preparedness. The problem with the testamentary trust is exactly that. It doesn't exist and can't be reviewed until it does exist. Also, when it is part of a standalone living trust, those are revocable, which means they can be changed at any time for any reason. If a testamentary trust is in there, it can be changed for any reason. So to have one review it and then have it changed would be silly. So those are two elements, and something I ask families, if you have done planning, to identify what type of special needs trust do you have? Is it a testamentary trust? Is it a third-party irrevocable living special needs trust? And if you don't know, that's okay. I'm happy to help you figure it out. Okay. Key takeaways for creating special needs trusts. You're not using your child's name directly. They are specifically identified as living with special needs, and that no distribution goes to them. It goes to their special needs trust. That the funds are only used for supplemental needs. Highlight, italicize, bold. That the assets do not belong to the person living with special needs. And because they don't belong, any of the benefits that we're receiving cannot be recovered. That the trustee has the sole discretion in distributing funds. And what this alludes to is making sure that your child living with special needs does not have any authority, because authority is perceived as having access to assets, which would invalidate their ability to receive benefits. We hit over this a little bit earlier, funding assets for your special needs trust. And typically, when it comes to mom and dad, we don't fund the trust until after we're gone. You are more important to your child's life than anything else, and your health and well-being is crucially important. The last thing you want to have happen is to have money locked up in a special needs trust, which is only available for your child, and you have some healthcare need that you need to address. So that's why it's structured in a way where you're there taking care of your child day to day while you're living. And then when you pass, then the trust will kick in and take it from there. Then the trust will fund your special needs trust, but not until then, because you will need that money while you're living. You are important also. It's not just about your child. It's about the whole family. Funding assets, these are all areas that are opportunities to look at and need to be discussed and itemized.
David, we have a question.
Super.
From Sonia. What happens if there is money left in a special needs trust or CalABLE account and the person with special needs passes away?
Perfect question. There's the role of the remainderman. These are just technical terms. You could think of it as the beneficiary. In both a CalABLE account and special needs trust, there's a person named to receive anything that's left after a loved one dies. So just as it would in anything else, Johnny passes away and there's $100,000 still left in the trust, that will go to another sibling, a niece or nephew, the person who's been caring for them, a charity, anywhere you want it to, that's up to you. So that's a piece you get to control. And rather than sending assets back to the state, you have the opportunity to keep it in your family.
Quick question. If we create a special needs trust in California but move to another state, is it valid in all states?
No, you would, they are state-specific documents, and you will want to have it looked at in whatever state, your state of residence.
Okay.
And we do work nationwide, so we can help with in those moving situations. Certainly, that's come up a lot more recently. Great questions. Any others? We're super close to the end, so feel free.
I apologize. I came in late and you probably already covered it, but your contact information.
Oh no, we'll have it at the end. Couple more slides and we'll get there. And I know that Kathleen will make sure to send it out as well.
So going back to your step 7 slide where you listed the types of irrevocable special needs trust, living family trust with a special needs trust seems to be the best option. Is that accurate?
You're picking that up. So in a perfect world, the gold standard is to have, we're talking about being proactive, okay? And so this is where different trusts come in for different situations. When we're proactive, the type of trust that we want to create, there are 3 documents that'll all work together, and it'll be your will, which is a public document, which goes through probate. Probate will take anywhere from 18 to 36 months to complete in Los Angeles and cost anywhere from 10 to 20% of the estate. Clearly, this is not what we want for our loved ones. So what your will essentially will say is everything that I own belongs to my family trust, and anything that I didn't specifically put here belongs to my family trust. And then the only other thing that your will is really going to address is who will be the guardians and conservators of my children. We want that to be public because that's your wishes and your recommendation to the state as to who you want to take care of your children. So it's really those 2 key pieces of information that are there. Then after the will will direct everything to your family trust, known as a revocable living trust. It can be changed for whatever reason. In that trust, you're able to direct everything, when and where you want it to go. One of the things you're going to direct is, say, when I pass away, and when, if it's 2 of you, when the second of us passes, let's say there's no one else, all my stuff goes to my child's special needs trust, created by me, mom and dad. Now that becomes a third-party special needs trust. It's your money going into that trust, and you have not been the one receiving benefits. That is what makes it kosher for your child to have supplemental assets in the special needs trust and be able to also be able to receive your benefits. Or the government benefits, excuse me. So I guess I'll just add on one more element to that. That's in the perfect world. Sometimes things are imperfect, and we have what's known as a good problem. And that's when our child receives money directly, but now it's in their name. That money cannot go to a third-party trust because it's first-party money and your child owns it. It's okay. There are different ways to handle it. I'm just going to leave it at, there is another type of special needs trust called a disability trust, which will accommodate this. Now I'm really going to get in the weeds here, but there are different ways to handle it. If the amount is $15,000, then all of that could go into an ABLE account and you wouldn't have to worry about it. If it were $100,000, then you might want it to go into an ABLE account. Or I'm sorry, not an ABLE account, a disability trust. And so that's an example of exactly when and why you would use different trusts for different circumstances. Did that sufficiently answer your question?
I feel more confused, but I'm gonna get your information at the
You're
end.
more, oh yeah, okay, that happens. Different tools for different situations. Okay, step 8 is simple. Put everything in a binder and keep it safe. Tell other people where it is and don't let them get marked up or destroyed. Step 9, meet with everyone involved. Tell them what they are planning on doing. Just because you write someone down does not mean they have to do what's written. They have to agree. So you want to have a family meeting with anyone involved and have everyone on the same page. And then step 10 is review and repeat. So things change. We plan for today and we address tomorrow later. This is not a forever thing. Your child is going to change as the years go on, and you need to address those changes accordingly. So part of what we do is to make sure that we check in at least every year to make sure things are on track. And if there are changes, that those are addressed through amendments. So, next steps. You want to identify what you want. We can help you to take away those obstacles. We've learned the consequences of what happens if you don't plan. There's the knowledge and ability to resolve and eliminate issues and consequences. And there should be no excuses. You can do this today, and I promise, here's my promise to you. Everyone is scared when they start this. They don't, it's a hard conversation. I promise. It is the biggest gift to yourself that you could ever give. I know how much anxiety this creates. I know that this conversation it stirs things up. Write your questions down and let me help you to sort through them. Let me help you to take action now. You know you need to do it. There are no excuses, and I promise, it's like a spa day when you get it done. There's a huge smile, there's a huge relief, and you just take that wonderful cleansing breath. You all know that moment when you get nervous, when you had that stop short in your car back when we were driving back and forth places. You get that heart-stopping moment and that, oh my God, what if? Imagine not having to go through that anymore. So sit with that. Know that this is all within your grasp. And thank you so much for being here today. Please download all of the documents I gave. There's a ton of great information in there. And do not hesitate to reach out with questions. There's no obligation. I do want to make sure that you get what you need.
Is your contact information on the slide, or do you want to put that in?
Coming. Oh, okay. So here's this. No obligation to consult. Have a conversation about your family. And when you leave, you'll have a plan. Here's my information.
So everybody can snap a picture of that if you want. I will also follow up by email with those registration emails and be able to give this to you. Earlier, Victoria also put our website information in the chat. And we'll follow up with that again. And she's adding some more information there now in the chat. So again, we encourage you to go to look at all of our workshops on the website, and then also sign up for our newsletter. It's brief, it's really informative. It's a great way to find out about all of these workshops. Like we mentioned earlier, we're looking at planning 2 workshops for SSI Part 1 and 2 in late January. Those are tentative. We don't have a confirmed dates yet. And then also early February, we'll have David come back and talk more in depth about the CalABLE accounts, just to understand more about that additional tool. So again, we thank you all for coming. I know everybody's very busy, and it was great to have you. So thank you so much. And please follow up with David if you have more questions. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.